Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Dawn. Let's return to the ship.
Rise to the top or get left in the dust.
That's so goofy. All I'm missing is a cat to pet while my throne turns around. Lord Captain, Lady Navigator, welcome aboard. The Sanctum Novice has been prepared for the communion ritual, but if the Lady Navigator wishes to rest in her quarters first. Your heart starts beating furiously, your breath comes short and choppy, and your fingertips tingle unpleasantly. You notice that Vigdis is shivering slightly, and the crew are glancing around in puzzlement, searching for the source of this sudden wave of unease. Without even looking at the Voxmaster, Cassia waves her away. First, I wish to speak with the Rogue Trader. Leave us. Of course. When you're ready for the ritual, please let me know. Cassia sweeps her pensive gaze over Vigdis, then, lowering her lashes slightly, turns to you. What did you wish to speak about? Before I begin the ritual, I wish to look once again into the eyes of the man whose fame is so great, and managed to penetrate the impregnable walls of Urak 5 long before we ever met. It truly is you, Donald, the person the whole Expanse and Calixis sector are talking about, and now, a rogue trader as well. So I did select the celebrity background when I created my character, and I assume that's what that's referencing. After a few seconds hesitation, Cassia lets out a small exhale, then raises her pointed chin. I have not yet thanked you for saving me on the station. My thoughts were clouded with so much mournful ash when Theobald's heart stopped. But you acted honorably, and did not exploit me in my wretched position, and for that I am immeasurably grateful. I'm also deeply grateful that you saved my servants, especially my valet. Uwe served on the station for more than 5 years, much longer than any who preceded him. He knows how to properly attend to me during journeys through the Amaterium, or to serve me for breakfast. His presence envelops me in a cloak of amber. But now, Cassia throws back her shoulders. I am ready to go to the Sanctum Novice and perform the sacred rite. I require brushes, canvas, and the best paints you have on board, but no red. Tell me more about what the ritual entails. I doubt the uninitiated can understand the mysteries of navigation, but I shall try to explain the essence of it. I must merge my mind and will with the machine spirit of the ship, so that I become one with the vessel. Cassia lifts a lock of hair from the back of her neck, revealing gilded implant ports. After that, I use the House Arcelio ritual, which I am loath to reveal to you, to free my mind of all errant thoughts, and then it is time to open my third eye, and peer into the depths of the warp itself. Among the nightmarish visions, mirages, and creatures of the abyss, only the light of the Emperor is the truth that will lead me from star to star, from system to system. Oh, the light, the guiding thread, so fine it can slip from one's grasp at any moment. Cassia unfurls her hand as though dropping something. But you have nothing to worry about. The navigators of House Arcelio are never lose their course. Why are you asking for these items? Now is not the time to indulge in painting. You're asking questions, the answers to which you cannot comprehend. Perhaps I may explain it all to you at a later time, but now our time is too precious to waste. As a navigator of House Arcelio, I give you my word that without canvas and paint, we have little hope of a smooth journey through the warp. I have no reason to lie. Why do you refuse red paint? Cassia gestures toward the servant standing beside her. Uwe will give of his blood before the ritual, as always. I shall ensure that all the necessary supplies are delivered to the Sanctum Novice. Cassia nods and thinks. I shall take my leave of you for the duration of the rite. I ask that you do not follow me. You can survive the gaze of my warp eye when it is opened. Lord Captain, will ever see the open channel between the Lady Navigator and the bridge. May the Emperor's light help us all. The Voxcaster in the Sanctum Novice picks up this susurration of clothes, pious chanting, and the metallic clicking of implants. Then the serene voice of the Lady Navigator breaks the silence, initiating communion ritual. Come here, Uwe. The exultant ring of metal freed from its scabbard, the low sob of the servant, the rhythmic drip of liquid on canvas, the faint whisper of the brush. Go. Footsteps hurrying away. I see violet vortexes lashing an ocean with a million flails, and umber shadows spinning over the surface in a fiery dance. A storm rising above foaming waters. Armadas drowning in fog. The path from one end to another cannot be seen. And here, beyond the wall of glass, a daughter forsaken by her father yearns for her brother, and the sun's pale disk goes on in tireless pursuit. Of her? No, of me. Its frozen rays lie that spring is here. The light is deadened. The great ruler is gone. The Voxmaster recoils at Cassia's words and accidentally snaps one of the cogitator levers. The panel beneath her fingers emits sparks. The Voxcaster falls silent. She quickly flips a series of switches and bows guiltily. My abject apologies for cutting off the broadcast, Lord Captain. I have never heard the warp speaking through a navigator before. The connection is restored now. It will not happen again. Alright, so you could argue we should discipline her, in this setting, of course, for messing up there. Especially as an officer, but and my character has been around long enough to know that when it comes to the warp, you can't really fault people for things like that happening. Yeah, we should just leave her to it. Leave the Lady Navigator undisturbed. Soul-shredding screams drown out the Vox transmission. The servants in the Sanctum Novice are howling and shrieking like wild beasts. Moaning in pain, their throats raw from the strain. And then, sudden silence. The dull thud of dropping bodies proclaims their fate. It appears the servants were part of the Lady Navigator's rite, as it was for her predecessor. I will arrange for the bodies to be removed from the Sanctum Novice after the ritual, or what is left of them. Rogue Trader, I fear I have unfortunate news. Endless blackness has spread across the canvas, dividing what should be whole in two, and my sight cannot glimpse the light of the Emperor as clearly as before. I cannot turn around. My brush only draws me onward. The way is blocked. You hear a heavy exhale, rustling fabric, and metallic clicking. By the Emperor's grace, the ritual was successful. Your vessel's temperament presented a challenge. Its cold steel grip did not allow me to breathe freely even for a second. It was as if the depths of the ship housed not only the machine spirits, but something other. Now I will retreat to my chambers to recover my strength. Send for me if you have need of me. Lord Captain, congratulations on acquiring a navigator. Spare me a few moments of your time, please. There are several matters that require your attention. First of all, I want to report on the condition of the station Urak 5. Had you opted to begin your visit to the Rykat system with a different destination, the station could have become critically unstable. Fortunately, the decision to immediately visit the representatives of Novice Nobilite bought us precious time. We can either send our forces to disassemble the station and procure technological components for our own vessel, or attempt to save as many valuables as we can. and gather any components that may be of use on the ship. And he's been on the field of battle before, so you don't let resources go to waste. As you command, Lord Captain. With your permission, I'd also like to remind you that we are still looking for an Engineer Prime. Both the vessel and its machine spirits are in desperate need of oversight by an experienced tech priest. We're also missing some crew, and much more importantly, we have not yet located Heinrich van Calix, the right hand of the Lord Inquisitor. Now we know for sure he is not at Uruk 5, so keep this in mind when making any future plans. Well, thank you, Victus. This will be all for now. As it pleases you, Lord Captain. I know how to exit the map. Alright.
Lord Captain.
Abelard greets you with his customary courtesy, but makes sure to scan you from head to toe with his scrutinizing gaze.
Lord Captain.
Alright. Can we speak to Cassia on the bridge? There she is.
Words cannot describe how boring the bridge is without our stimulating conversations.
Out of the one that we've had, Cassia offers you a reserved smile and waves at you in greeting. Tell me about yourself.
I am a part of House Orselio, an ancient dynasty of the Navis nobility. Since time immemorial, our family has served to advance knowledge, pushing at the boundaries of the dark unknown. The Starway Atlas contains 2,843 routes that chart the sectors of the Segmentum Obscurus and reach all the way from the Coronis Expanse to Holy Terra.
She pronounced this Navis Nobilite. But if it was pronounced Nobilite, wouldn't it have an accent mark over the E? Navigators identify so strongly with their house. It must be difficult for you not to be able to lean on your elders. But you have my word that I will look after you.
You will? That would be most appreciated, Lord Captain.
Cassia blinks in surprise and becomes pensive. So you've never lived anywhere other than Uruk 5?
Hardly. According to the chronicles of the house, I was born on one of the Orselio worlds. Oh, what was it? Please forgive me, Lord Captain. My childhood memories are too vague. Sometimes I dream about the colorful birds that built their nests in the garden, or the servants dressed in purple livery, or the blue fog that rolled over the lowlands behind the palace. But everything is covered in a rosy haze. Perhaps it is my imagination, not my memory, that is painting these pictures.
Cassia absent-mindedly rubs her temple. Tell me about your life on the station.
My stay on the station was wholly dedicated to preparing me for my future duty. Astromancy, astrography, numerology, the histories of my house and the Imperium, as well as other disciplines. For many years, dozens of instructors tirelessly prepared me for my destiny. And once a year, Great Regent Alronto would come to the station. He would entrust his beautiful vessel to my command, so that I could master the practical aspects of our art as well.
Did you have friends? Someone you could turn to for a simple conversation, not a discussion of yet another lecture.
The Regent gave me a bird from a sunlit planet once. I tried to befriend it and make it sing, but for some reason, it refused, and died soon after. The instructors were too respectful of my duty to my house to waste precious time on idle chatter. Aside from them, there were only servants on the station, and you know they have their vocal cords removed, so they cannot break their vow of silence.
Cassia blinks in surprise, obviously taken aback by the question.
And since the subject has been breached, Lord Captain, why do you not follow this honored tradition? Your decks are so garish. Apologies, I meant noisy. The rabble don't just chatter. Sometimes they shout and even sing. Why do you allow such a lack of restraint? Rogue traders are highborn, are they not?
I like option 4. I also like option 3. I like the noise people make here. It fills the ship with life.
With life? Ugh, if only you could take my place and watch this kaleidoscope. Every voice is a flash of color. Every conversation a shimmering glow. Every argument is an unstoppable swirl of gaudy splotches.
Cassia rubs her eyes tiredly. Your third eye. You always conceal it. Yeah, she does. If anyone looks at it, they're gonna die. Or turn into a monster.
The Navigator's open eye is baneful to whoever the warp's ruinous shine falls upon, and therefore it is the symbol of our power. We are the guiding stars of humanity, found worthy of an uncommon gift, and one of the duties that we bear is to guard our eye, even from wayward glances that may bear evil.
Cassia nods slowly. It's one of the great ironies of the Imperium, who has an extreme intolerance for mutants, that they depend entirely on mutants to have an empire in the first place.
Besides, I am aware that lesser servants of the Imperium may find our appearance repulsive. The Navigator gene twists the features the rabble are used to seeing, and the magnificence of our role cannot be grasped by their feeble minds.
Cassia hesitates for a few seconds and looks away. Yeah, I feel like my character would probably have option 4 as his opinion. I cannot blame them. Navigators are mutants, albeit highborn mutants.
I have no wish to discuss this subject further.
Sorry, Cassia. Cassia's face twists in a fleeting grimace. What does it feel like to guide a vessel through the warp?
It may be difficult to describe. You see, every navigator perceives the warp differently. My mentor, Great Regent Elronto, always described his travels through the Immaterium as a journey through a vast wood with countless paths. And I, assisting him in the first voyages, futilely tried to follow his example. But the wood would not reveal itself to me. But everything changed when I found my own key to this mystery. You see, I've always brightened up my rare moments of leisure time by painting. You may recall there was a workshop in my chambers. As soon as I imagined the warp as a blank canvas, an indescribable feeling came over me. I moved the brush, going deeper and deeper into my own painting. Visions were hidden within the vibrant colors of my palette, and something inside me knew which should be brought out and which should be left behind. I woke up several days later, after the voyage was safely complete.
I notice that your love of painting is reflected in your speech as well. You associate so many images with hues and colors.
The Emperor graced me with a gift. I can see inner life in addition to the mundane. You cannot know that a fruit has rotten from the inside until a blade slices it in two. I can see the rot from far away. It roils like swamp mud, oozing through the bright peel. Anger and boredom, sadness and joy. Everything that people shut away inside themselves is revealed to me like colors on the canvas of my world.
Why don't we talk about something else?
You will hear no objection from me, Lord Captain.
Tell me about House Orselio.
As the only voice of our family on this vessel, it is an honor. As long as your questions are courteous, I will answer every one of them.
I take it House Orselio has a rich history.
Oh, yes. The navigators of the house came to the Coronis Expanse fairly recently, a mere 208 years ago. Before that, Our ancestors expanded the borders of humankind's dominion for the glory of the Emperor, blazing trails to different corners of the galaxy.
Who rules the house?
Just as a rogue trader stands at the head of a protectorate, a Novator heads a Navigator house. It is the Novator who decides where to look for alliances and which path their bloodline is destined to tread. As for our house, the transfer of power to a successor is currently underway. In the meantime, Great Regent Auronto Orselio is ensuring the stability of the house.
The young woman purses her lips slightly. You lived in seclusion on a closed station until Felix committed his sabotage. Then you must be the Novator's successor.
So says Regent Auronto. Nothing is decided yet. Some people in the house become enshrouded in rolling grey clouds at the thought of me becoming the Novator. But even more are bound with dull leaden chains. They think I am not ready for such a burden.
With your permission, I would like to talk about something else.
By all means.
What does your special sight reveal?
Sister Argenta shines like a guiding star, inspiring resolve in those around her, seemingly inexplicably. However, I see a dark and ugly fog billow behind her, contrasting sharply with her shining light. It burdens the Sister of Battle. It drags her down. Yet Argenta herself is hardly aware of it. Seneschal Viserion is among the few whose colors are a pleasure to look at. Whenever the Seneschal speaks, heavenly crystal clarity spreads around him. And whenever he is angered, dark blue clouds condense over him. And in his rare moments of joy, a pure gleam of sunset pink caresses the souls of those near him. Out of your entire retinue, Lord Captain, he is the only one I would trust with my life.
Cassia's stern gaze grows a little warmer.
Idira's emotions are like a maelstrom, bright, unbridled, enveloping her form like a wondrous kaleidoscope of colors. And as dangerous as a twisting warp storm. The riot of colors hides the truth from my eyes. What exactly is driving this woman? Is it her own will, or is it the Immaterium, Lord Captain?
Cassia hesitates. This is where I must beg my leave.
I have enjoyed your company. Thank you for the conversation.
And the one insult. Alright, let's see what she's all about. She is dogmatic. She's an officer as well, so it'll be a little redundant, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean we've read all this, so I don't need to read it again. She also has Lidless Stare. All creatures in a cone in front of the Navigator suffer from damage. The affected targets must also pass a plus 30 bonus willpower resistance test or become stunned for 1 turn. Okay, so she has the healing effect. Well, temporary wounds effect. Inspire Courage. Whenever the officer targets an ally with an ability for the first time in a round, the ally gains plus 5 temporary wounds. Then Unknown. And the flagship post abilities spin around. By the end of a swing run, the flagship can choose its position out of 3 directions instead of taking the opposite one. Leaking Ether. Enemy void ships suffer from warp damage when being jumped through using shallow jump. And Determined Scan. During vulnerability scan, the weak point never appears at the opposite side of an enemy void ship. Also, there is an additional plus 5% bonus to damage dealt to the scan weak point. Not a very long list. Well, at least not yet. Alright, let's go ahead and level her up. What does she have here? The voice of command, of course. She has Persuasion as her selected skill there. Bring it down. Finest Hour. Inspire Courage. Alright. Well, as an officer, we should probably just prioritize Fellowship. And a regular talent. What does she have down here? Alright, let's read through all of these. These are all Navigator specific, it looks like. Because she doesn't have a homeworld. All these are unique to her. The course untraveled. Whenever the Navigator uses a Navigator power that hasn't been used this combat, the Navigator gains +2 perception until the end of combat. Blood Augury. Enemies damaged by the Navigator suffer % additional damage from warp damage. The bonus damage stacks for each hit. Ebb and Flow. Every even, a second, fourth, etc. turn, the Navigator gains an additional action point. Every odd turn, the Navigator gains +20 perception. That seems really good. Depending on how long combat goes on for. Eye of Oblivion. Every enemy the Navigator has in their line of sight has its dodge and hit chance reduced. Seems pretty good. Atonicity. Navigator path powers deal +1 additional damage for every 5 bonus characteristic of the Navigator's currently equipped staff. Castigating, Infusing, and Devastating count as the characteristics for this talent. The Castigating. Enemies that become targets of the Navigator's powers suffer a penalty to all their characteristics equal to the castigating parameter until the end of the Navigator's next turn. This penalty stacks and is prolonged until the Navigator's next turn every time it stacks. Infusing. Allies that become targets of the Navigator's powers gain bonuses to all their characteristics equal to the infusing parameter until the end of the Navigator's next turn. And it stacks until their next turn, just like the castigating effect. And Devastating. The first use of a damaging Navigator power does not start the cooldown of this power. The second use of a damaging Navigator power will deal an additional damage equal to the Devastating parameter to all targets and the same amount of direct damage to the Navigator. That seems pretty good too. Mastery of Time. Whenever a creature in combat gains an extra turn, the Navigator gains a stacking +5 bonus to willpower until the end of combat. Now, Mind Over Matter. The Navigator makes all resistance tests with their willpower as if it is higher than the base characteristic for such test. If the Navigator's willpower is higher than their toughness, the Navigator's wounds are calculated according to their willpower. Well, it is. I might grab that first. Open to the Warp. Enemies affected by the Navigator's abilities suffer a stacking -10 penalty to the next resistance test from the Navigator's powers. The penalty is lost after such a test is made. Pass unscathed. If the Navigator's perception is higher than their agility, their dodge is calculated using perception instead. Also might be worth grabbing. Stable Routes. Whenever the Navigator uses a Navigator's ability, Veil Degradation is reduced by 1. Strange Vitality. The Navigator heals willpower bonus wounds at the beginning of every turn, and gains +1 additional wound for every Navigator talent taken. The healing increases by +1 for every creature killed in between the Navigator's turns. All these seem pretty good. You can make her fairly tanky, just based off all of these. Perilous Ways. Enemies moved by the Navigator's abilities suffer willpower bonus damage at the end of movement. This damage is increased by +2 for every cell the enemy moves. Threads and Faults. Whenever an enemy fails a resistance test against a Navigator's power, attacks against them get a % critical hit chance increase. The effect stacks but is reset by a critical hit. Unblinking Stare. To the end of combat, enemies damaged by the Navigator suffer an additional perception bonus damage from all attacks of opportunity and cannot dodge them. Undam the Sea of Souls. While under the effect of any Navigator power, enemies have their armor reduced by that formula. This reduction is increased by the devastating parameter of the Navigator's staff, but does not stack. Under My Protection. Allies that are targeted by the Navigator's abilities gain +5 to all resistance... Gain +5 to all resistance tests against warp effects caused by demons, psychic powers, Navigator powers, etc. until the end of combat. The effect stacks with every applied Navigator ability. Unnatural Lure. The Navigator gains +5 to Fellowship and an additional +1 to Fellowship for every Navigator talent and or Navigator power taken. Veil of Protection. Allies that are targeted by the Navigator's power gain plus 10% armor. This additional armor is reduced by the amount of veil degradation to a minimum of plus 0%, and increased by the infusing of the currently equipped Navigator's staff. And Guide of Souls. The Navigator starts all turns, including extra turns, with plus 3 additional movement points. The first ally targeted each turn by the Navigator with a single target ability gains the same amount of additional movement points at the start of their next turn. So I quite like Ebb and Flow, and then if you grab Ebb and Flow followed by Pass Unscathed, you could get a decent dodge chance. Let's go and grab this. I'm guessing Lasting Impression won't stack, so if I cast it with my main character, and they get the permanent buff for the rest of combat, and then she uses it, it's not going to double that permanent buff. I might go this route, so what I'll do here is grab Blood of Martyrs, and then probably Armor of Contempt. Just have her buff everybody up, with temp HP and defensive bonuses. So Blood of Martyrs, whenever an ally uses a heroic act, that ally gains temporary wounds equal to 10% of their maximum wounds plus resolve. And Fellowship. I'm trying to mix up what talents I take on her, since I already have a main character officer that's going to take all the stuff I really want to take. So instead we'll just go with, I guess, more generic buffs. But cool. Well, there's our new companion. I'm going to call it here. Next time we will pick a planet to go to and set course. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.